You've been waiting all week for that Saturday show. Tune in, see what happened, let your troubles go. Work real hard, now it's time to take it slow. Kick back and relax with that Saturday show.
Local and national election highlights, who won, who lost, and a close-up of some pretty telling results and just what they could mean for all of us going forward. What's ahead for state legislatures during the short session in January? The stadium bond goes down in defeat, but will the moneyed interest find a way to make the stadium happen anyway? Stay tuned. P&M merger with PAJOLA Avangrid is on hold due to a very wise judge advising against the merger. Welcome to another edition of That Saturday Show, brought to you by the Albuquerque Center for Peace and Justice, your voice and your advocate for social justice. I'm Jim Harvey, your host, and we are promising you another great show today featuring Celtic music and the history behind it from our own Celtic singers. We are joined today by the fabulous Barbara Jordan, activist, author, and community leader from Rio Rancho. We'll be talking about her organization, People Requiring Equality Within Systematic Racism. In New Mexico, Black Lives Matter, our schools and COVID, and maybe, just maybe, an important announcement. But first, let me get this off my chest. The stadium bond was defeated here in the 505, and we should celebrate, but not too long. The billionaire soccer team owner and his moneyed friends may decide to press on with a privately funded deal to get that stadium built anyway. If this happens, we could be looking at challenges of eminent domain or even out declarations of war on local communities. Have you ever seen a sports stadium built in a wealthy neighborhood? I don't think so. Stay focused, my friends. The battle is not over yet. Congratulations to Mayor Tim Keller for his reelection. I just can't imagine Albuquerque being led by the likes of Manny Gonzalez or that Aragon guy. Message to the mayor: take time and ask the people for our opinions about critical issues of community development, homelessness, and affordable housing. A good start here might begin with a look at the new rent control programs that have been introduced in Minneapolis and St. Paul. Oh yes, and don't lose sight of the continuing efforts to solve the police problems here. Reform is still badly needed, and some of us local folks have some pretty good ideas to share, if you ask and if you listen. On a national front, it looks like the Democrats are determined to endanger all of us by failing to get the right messages out to the voters, and more importantly, by failing to come together to get important infrastructure bills passed, and my favorite bills, John Lewis Voting Rights Bill and the George Floyd Act. The Dems campaigned on these issues and promised results. So far, goose egg, nothing. Sure, part of the problem is the filibuster, but they can't even agree on amending it in order to get some of these things passed. The results are becoming as clear as last Tuesday, where they lost the governor's race in Virginia by failing to excite voters. Black voters in particular, and the lackluster turnout cost them that election. When you don't deliver on your promises, I just can't get too excited. Now, let's not get confused. Not voting is the same as voting for the opposition, and we cannot surrender to the Confederate Party. You know who they are. They used to call themselves Republicans. just because we're pissed off. It is up to us to send a message to the Dems that they are giving away the store by being divided and off message. Let's get it done. The Confederates have been organizing for a coup in government for a long time, and while the Dems are busy trying to play nice, they are getting their clocks cleaned. We have to keep our eyes on every elector, from school board to state legislators to who we send to Washington. I came into the civil rights struggle back in the 60s before I was even old enough to vote. But I came up fighting against a well-organized but ruthless Democratic Party in Chicago. The Confederate alternative was not and still is not an option. But we have to learn how they play this game and do it with no more kumbaya. Welcome, Barbara Jordan.
Thank you for having me, Jim.
Oh, it's so good to have you here with us today. Barbara, founder of People Requiring Equality Within Systemic Racism in New Mexico, and you're a retired combat vet.
Yes.
And you've got 20 years of service in the United States Air Force. Wow. But now you're on the ground.
Yes.
And you're here in the greater Albuquerque / Rio Rancho area, and you're doing some great things. Talk to us.
Yes, thank you, Jim. So I started Press New Mexico so we can reach the communities. I figured we need to take care of each other because we have organizations that are in place that cause a lot of red tape before you're able to get assistance, or you're not able to even get it at all. So I figured, you know what, let's cut it and we'll go straight to the people. So that's what we do at Press New Mexico. We gather toiletry items for our houses members, and we gather food and we pass them out where it counts. We go behind the gas stations. We go where we know our houses members are staying and make sure that they have what they need. And not only do we pass out the items that we need, that they need, we take with us paper and a pen so we can write down things that they may ask for, such as adult diapers or even dog food for their dogs. And we, next time we go out, we have those things and we pass those things out as well.
That's wonderful to know.
Thank
you know, the Peace and Justice Center has been doing a lot with unhoused people. We feed them on Saturdays. You heard earlier we're talking about starting the Peace Cafe, which historically has been like a drop-in center where people, particularly during cold weather, can come and sit down and get a cup of coffee, get some tea, get a warm meal, you know, and just sit there and just get out of the weather during those cold months, and especially. But we're beginning to turn our attention to housing as a big issue. And one of the things that I know, and I mentioned it in my intro, was that Minneapolis has just introduced rent control there, Minneapolis and St. Paul. And that's a big contributor to a lot of people being tossed out on the streets, particularly in this environment where rents are going up.
Yes.
And we've got lots and lots of absentee landlords. And then you've got the other factors that have been around for a long time, mental illness and other things that have people on the streets. So do you encounter a lot of that with the work that you're doing? Do you run into a lot of people with that just don't want to come in from the cold because they don't feel safe?
Exactly. And that's why I feel like a lot of our houses members even hide from society. But we need to make sure that they know that they're a part of our communities, that they're a part of society, and that they can feel safe and that they should feel supported. And so that's what part of Press does. We go in there with our hearts extended and with our arms open. You know, we're giving hugs, you know, we're talking to people like, how are you doing? What's going on with you? And we hear success stories on the streets, and their stories need to be shared, not only locally, but nationally. You know, our houses members are humans as well. And we need to make sure that everyone knows that, and everyone needs to treat them accordingly.
So when we talk about Rio Rancho in particular, where I know most of your work is concentrated, We just don't normally think that you'd find a lot of unhoused people in Rio Rancho,
Yes.
this up and coming community of, maybe one of the last bastions of middle class success, I like to think, in New Mexico. So what's it like? What's the homeless picture look like?
Yes, we do have homeless members in Rio Rancho, contrary to what a lot of members believe. Our homeless members there tend to hide in certain locations, and I happen to know where those locations are, so where I can get to them and get them the warm clothing items that they will need, like such as upcoming with the cold weather. But yes, we do have the same issues. It's not the cookie cutter pretty town that it's like projected or perceived to be. We have our houseless members there, and they are part of our community. And so I do what I can to let them know that they are part of our community. And I have other members on my team who do the same as well, and I appreciate them all.
That's wonderful. How's the city government responding to the homeless issue there?
The city government responds in a way whereas we won't even acknowledge them. As if you don't acknowledge the people, then the problem will go away. Well, it won't go away. We need to make sure that our houseless members are supported and that they're seen and heard. And they deserve that. They deserve to be supported. They deserve to have food. They deserve to not be ushered into Albuquerque. If Rio Rancho is their home, then that's their home. And that's where we need to support and take care of members of our community.
So are there chances that we can find shelter, or better yet, homes for these people?
There are currently no housing available for members in Rio Rancho.
Ouch.
And it hurts my soul deeply. So I actually work with organizations that are actually here in Albuquerque to make sure that we get members housed who need it, who want it. Other members who feel like they don't want to come in, then I give them emergency blankets, gloves, hats, things like that, so that they can survive on the streets until I see them again.
Right. So it seems like Albuquerque probably should reach out to city government in Rio Rancho and see if we could inspire people over there to have a heart.
Yes, definitely.
And do something about it. Is there a possibility you could find spaces available for people to be housed in Rio Rancho?
Yes, I've seen some key locations that I would like to look at to create housing for our houseless members in Rio Rancho. And I know that we can get the funding to do it. So that is one of the key items like on my list to do for the city of Rio Rancho.
Great.
Yes.
Great. So in terms of resources, how do you get your resources? The food and the blankets and all those things that you distribute.
Thank you so much for asking.
Yeah.
All of the resources that we obtain are completely voluntary donations. I keep an Amazon wish list to where members can send me socks, emergency blankets, toiletry items for our houseless members. And then I also do a lot myself. I normally don't even talk about it, but I source a lot of items myself so we can have them for our houseless members on the streets. And that's how we get all of our donations, and 100% of our donations go back out to our community. We do not have anything that we hold for the cost of running Press New Mexico. We put it all back out on the streets.
That's so good to know. A lot of organizations can't boast of something like that. There's always something that's got to be scraped off the top.
Yes.
But you're putting 100% of your resources
100%.
Right back out there where it's needed.
Yes.
You're to be congratulated
Thank
for that.
you.
You really are. So, so Rio Rancho has its issues, its challenges, its problems, like any place else, and their unwillingness to address such an important issue as homelessness alone is something that tells me that government there needs leadership with a heart.
Yes.
So what are you going to do about that?
You know what? You know what I'm going to do about it, Jim?
What are you going to do about that?
I have decided that I'm running for mayor of Rio Rancho. And that's what I'm going to do to combat some of the issues that we have there. I looked around and I saw it and I said, you know what? I always tell people to be the change, and I wanted to step up and be the change myself. I am used to serving my community. I served our United States Air Force for 20 plus years. And what better way to have me serve our city, to serve my city. And I tell people I'm coming for the soul of the city. I'm coming for the soul. I'm bringing it back. And we can do that together. We can do that as a unit together.
I love that. What's your platform?
My platform is transparency, inclusion, the mental health of our children. And of course, we have some infrastructure issues that we want to maintain, such as repairing the roads in our local communities, and supporting small businesses is really dear to my heart.
That's wonderful to know. All those things are badly needed out there.
Yes.
You know, when I was house hunting about 7, 8 years ago, and I was out in Rio Rancho, it seemed so far away, you know, from everything that I was involved in. But at the same time, it seemed like it was missing an engaging kind of warmth, and you know, it didn't feel inviting.
Right.
And so I've been out there several times since, and I've noticed that just in those last 7 years, the city's been built up more and more, and that's good. And there's some good restaurants out in Rio Rancho, really good restaurants out there. So things are happening.
Right. Things are happening.
Yeah.
Not only do I step in with the work that I do with my nonprofit, but I'm on the ground every day. You know, I was on the ground before I decided to run for mayor, and I'll be on the ground regardless of the outcome of this election that happens on March 1st, 2022. So, yes, thank you so much. Yes.
Fantastic. Good, good. So after you get elected, what you going to do?
What am I going to do?
Yeah.
Let me tell you. So mental health for the children, I almost said my children. Mental health for our children is the first thing that's dear to my heart. And I have some simple programs that I want to implement that are going to be low cost, no cost, but that will make a difference in our children's lives. One is the buddy program. So where our kids carry around like a card, and when they're feeling down, they have the name of that person that they're going to call. Also engaging with our counselors at schools and just having them send out a message to our kids saying, hey, how are you doing? We do it when we're checking on their grades. We could do it to check on their mental health as well.
Absolutely.
I want to hone in on the New Mexico Black Education Act that Senator Pope helped usher in for us, and be on the ground working to make sure that all the educators are trained in bias issues and, you know, inclusion, and we know how to deal with those types of things. And the third thing I want to do is make sure we invest in our small businesses. I want to get a water study done in Rio Rancho. We haven't had one in over 20 years. I want to make sure that the roads in the local communities are fixed before we widen highways for big businesses. I want to focus on the people in Rio Rancho. I'm coming for the soul of the city. I'm coming for the soul and the heart of Rio Rancho.
I love that. We've heard about some environmental dumping issues over there, and in fact, we've had some residents of Rio Rancho on our show to talk about that. But there's another issue just before we close out that I wanted to zero in, and that was COVID and the schools.
Yes.
What's happening there?
COVID is real. Our pandemic is real. We keep asking our kids to be resilient, but they have adults fighting on whether we're going to wear a piece of cloth over our face or not. That has to end. Our children deserve to be protected, and we are the ones who are supposed to be in place to protect our children. So if not for yourself, I'm asking you to do it for them. Wear the mask, get vaccinated, take care of each other so our children can have a brighter future. We have a basic job to take care and nurture our children. They should be able to go into a safe academic environment every day.
CDC and FDA have opened up the floodgates now and making COVID vaccines available for children as young as 5. So I'm hoping that you're going to carry that message forward. And get those naysayers out there online.
Right on. Yes, good. I do. I support the vaccine. Of course, I'm vaccinated. I'm going to get my booster soon. And all of our kids, if it's available, they should get the vaccine. If it's available for adults, get the vaccine. The vaccine is saving lives.
Wow. Barbara Jordan, you've brought so much great information to us, and a breaking announcement that she's running for mayor March of 2022. If you're a Rio Rancho resident, remember. And if any of the candidates are out there who are brave enough to come on that Saturday show, you can come on in and we'll give you some time too. But that's it. Thank you so much for being on that Saturday show.
Thank you.
And all the best to you and all the work that you do.
Thank you, Jim. I appreciate you.
Keeping track of this good news, let's go on And let's hear from Hasani with Good News News. Hasani, what you got for us today?
Thank you, and welcome to Good News News. I'm your correspondent, Hasani Olujimi, and I'm Gugu for Good News. The goal of this segment is to inspire and uplift you, the viewer, with nothing but good news. Today's good news is truly a heartwarming eye-opener. Let's explore a little more.
Hello, everybody. My name is Gene Purdy. I live in Denver, Colorado with my beautiful wife, Joy, our 1-year-old son, Lincoln, and I suffer from Stargardt's disease. Stargardt's is an eye disease that affects the retina, and it makes the central vision go blurry so that it's really difficult to see features, faces, reading anything. It's a challenge.
When we actually met, he kept walking by, and I'm waving, trying to get his attention. And he keeps walking past me. And so the next time I saw him, it's like, what's your deal? He told me that he was blind. And so I was like, okay, well, you can come sit with me.
Okay, explain briefly once more for us how this technology works to help someone in this situation.
Sure. So what it does, it uses the camera, it captures a video, runs it through a computer, and makes a whole bunch of different adjustments to every pixel of that image, and then puts it on high-definition screens. The resulting video basically is customized so that someone with low vision gets more out of the sight they have remaining, and it should take them back towards what we call typical eyesight.
That's amazing. Is that not amazing? It's just so amazing. The technology that's come so far in such a short amount of time. Okay, so let's give it a shot.
So yeah, you just take the glass off, all that, and then there's
Link,
gone.
you excited, buddy? Ooh, I'll help.
Thanks.
There you go. You got it on there?
Yes.
Okay, now how does this work? Come on over, buddy.
Gina, what are you able to see?
She's pretty.
Oh, she's so gorgeous. And how handsome is your son?
Wow. Hey, Lincoln. I can see their whole face at one time. Like, usually
You just get little pieces of a puzzle.
Yeah, and just piece the details together and remember for next time.
Oh, don't cry, you're so pretty. It's my big head.
Looking for my parents.
Where's your folks? Where are they? There they are.
Like,
Come on up here. Come here. I don't want you over there. Come on up here. We can bring the whole family up here.
it's a big family. They're not all here, but.
Come on over, Mom and Dad. So, you get in there so he can get a good look at you. You get in there so your son can get a good look at you. We want to thank Taylor so much, and we really want to thank eSight because they are gifting the $15,000 glasses to Gene and his family. I cannot wait to see the video of Gene in his kitchen with those glasses. I have a feeling he's going to be the one that's cooking up Thanksgiving dinner this year.
Now, isn't that good news? Let's take a look at two of our Hollywood favorites, Will Ferrell and Mark Wahlberg, share dad jokes. Here we go.
What did the plumber say to the singer? Nice pipes. Yeah. Cold man.
If spaghetti
Cold man.
made an action movie, what would it be called?
Spaghetti Western.
Mission Impossible. What did the fried rice say to the shrimp?
Fry your rice.
Don't walk away from me.
What kind of car does an egg drive? A Volkswagen.
What?
A Volkswagen. Yeah. Get it?
What do you call someone who gets mad when they don't have any bread? Lactose intolerant.
All right. What was the foot's favorite type of chips? Doritos.
That's terrible.
Well, as we always say, the best way to turn a frown upside down is to get Google for good news. I'm your correspondent, Hasani Olujimi, and I'll see you right here next time on That Saturday Show with more good news.
Thanks so much, Hasani, for another good news segment. We are joined now by Rebecca Jasso-Aguilar of the Public Banking, the Alliance for Local Economic Prosperity, who's going to be talking about the important public banking bill that's coming up soon. Rebecca, welcome back to That Saturday Show.
Thank you very much, Jim. Thank you for having me on the program. It's always an honor to be able to speak to progressive and socially committed New Mexicans.
Thank you.
Yes, the Alliance for Local Economic Prosperity, let me tell you what we have been up to.
Yes.
In the last few months. Like I said last time I was in your program, we are committed to have legislation passed to create a public bank for New Mexico. And right now we are doing everything we can to have our bill, the Public Bank Act, on the governor's call. So we are presenting to different interim committees. And so we're doing the role, making presentations. Just this past month, we had 2 presentations made to the Economic Development Committee and to the New Mexico Finance Authority Oversight Committee.
Good.
Yes, so we're busy doing that. We'll do more. And the message that we are delivering to our legislators and elected officials is now is the time to create a public bank for New Mexico. Why? Well, the pandemic funds will be gone by the end of 2022.
That's right.
So those are going to dry up. I don't think we can count on the fossil fuel revenues increasing. So the bank can be established and operating in 2023, ready to add support to the state's financial system to finance programs. I mean, if we pass it, this next legislation, which we are trying. We are trying and we will continue to try. I would like to talk a little bit about the lending needs in New Mexico.
Yes.
Some of our AFLEP members attending the New Mexico Climate Summit and reviewing the newly released Economic Development 20-year plan identified that both the summit and the document call for innovation, equity in lending programs, and strong support for sustainable, regenerative businesses, especially alternative energies, rural areas, water and air quality, and our food system. AFLEP has identified those areas for priority lending, but current state appropriations to departments and agencies are not funding the development needs of the state.
So having a public bank in place would make all the difference in the world.
Would help a lot,
Yeah.
to say the least. But not only that, one of our members is a number cruncher, and using data from the Federal Reserve Economic Database, which is a nationwide database, he estimated that the amount of unmet loans that could be performing loans in New Mexico was, get this, $144 million.
Wow.
And, you know, this is nationwide database, and he scaled it to the state level. So let's say that it's 100.
Yeah.
But it's $100 million for unmet commercial, industrial, and agricultural loans.
Good grief.
And Jim, you and I have had conversations, anecdotal conversations about, for example, the struggling small businesses along Central.
Including marijuana that's coming along now.
Right.
Yeah.
And struggling farmers.
Yes.
And all those anecdotal, but this is hard data. This is numbers that our member looked at and came up with. And so this hard data flies in the face of community bankers arguing that they are very good at meeting the needs of the state, which is something that they continue, is the case that they continue making against a public bank. And here is where community bankers are not understanding the possibilities and benefits of a public bank. Loans that are not widely made by community banks, what are called non-traditional loans, because either they are too small or very short term or very long term. Entrepreneurial loans, for example. These are loans that they wouldn't make traditionally, but they could be made if they establish partnering relations with a public bank.
That's right.
So credit unions, community banks, and CDFIs would increase the number of customers and increase their business through partnering with the public bank in lending. So tax revenue to the community would increase, and there would be more jobs. So it's a win-win situation, isn't it?
It sure is. It's a win-win for everybody, and it would be a win-win for the state and for small businesses. So we're looking at January, the short term with the state legislature.
Right. I would like, if we have one of my slides, the first one, if we could pass it. If not, I can read what's in it.
Well, let's see if we can get it pulled up. That one?
Yes.
Good.
Yes. So we have a group of people in AFLEP who have banking and financial expertise background. And they have worked putting together a pro forma business plan where they look at different scenarios to show the feasibility of a public bank in New Mexico. So they looked at different scenarios. And I think this bit of information is the most powerful. Adding a state public bank to the finance system in a moderately conservative scenario, a $50 million appropriation to capitalize the bank increases to almost $113 million in equity in 7 years. So it's a 7-year equity growth rate of 12.43%.
Wow, that's great.
And the initial investment of $50 million, due to the nature of a bank, lends up to $485 million over the 7 years.
Good grief.
So this is certainly potential that cannot be ignored.
It's tremendous potential.
Right,
It
right.
really,
So
really
we are
is.
really doing our best, trying really hard to convince our legislators that this is the time for a public bank.
Absolutely. So, all right, looking ahead to January, and I asked this question last time, and I'm going to ask again, what can we do leading up to January to encourage our legislators to do the right thing? We need this.
Right, we need this. Let me just, before I go into, what's the message that we would like our viewers to give our legislators, our legislatures. We are holding community conversations, so that would be one thing. In these community conversations, we have groups of people, small groups. Hopefully, they'll get bigger, and I'm sure they will. But these are people that they may or may not belong to a collective or to an organization, but just individuals who are engaged in their community and who talk to us about, not necessarily about a public bank, to start the conversation, but about the needs in their community, what they see as the issues that are most important and should be addressed, and in what ways could be addressed to improve their communities, to make them a better place, a happier place.
Right.
We've had already 2 community conversations, one in Las Cruces that I was not part of, but another one in Farmington that I was part of. And you can already see common themes: public transportation, reliable public transportation. And one wonderful thing about these community conversations is that you realize how engaged people are in these issues. And you wouldn't imagine that, right? Or maybe you do because you're in contact with people, but people do want to talk about what's important to their communities and give their input about what they see as necessary to better their communities. And so we will use this data, we will look at it, find common themes, and then those common themes will inform lending programs for the public bank.
Wonderful.
And of course, the legislature also informs the lending programs of the public bank. But if our legislatures are in touch with their community, surely they'll match.
Of course.
And I think our legislatures are in touch with our communities. And they will.
So what's the plan for more community conversations? Because the more we know, the smarter we get.
Exactly. Well, I would like to invite everybody in the audience to contact us. I don't know if I don't know if you have my contact information, but at any rate, I put it here.
All right, good for you.
Please contact us at AFLEB, www.afleb.org. You can email me too at this email. And we would love to hear from you. We would love to hold a community conversation and hear your concerns. And we invite you also, maybe if you're not ready for a community conversation, but are just curious about AFLEB, please go to our website, register, sign up to receive our e-blasts. We are putting e-blast out once, sometimes twice a week. And they have a lot of really good information, like, for example, what I am going to read now as part of what I would ask people to do to help us establish a public bank. This was part of one of our e-blasts. So what can you tell your the governor and our legislative leaders?
Yes.
Well, let them know that if we are going to be bold in addressing our state needs, we need a public bank that will expand our state financial ability to provide lending that will help make a difference in the well-being of New Mexicans. If you're a small business owner and have been denied access to capital, please contact us and let us know your story. This input would support our narrative to make the case for a public bank. So get involved, learn about us, contact us. We'd love to be in touch with you and tell you more about a public bank and hear your concerns.
And the Peace and Justice Center is available as a link to put you in touch with AFLEP as well and let you know how you can, in fact, make your voices heard. And I saw, we flashed up here just a little while ago, an endorsement from the Association of Credit Unions.
Exactly. You know, the credit unions get it. We are hopeful that the community bankers will too.
Yeah.
But the people who work in the credit unions, maybe, well, the credit unions are the ones also who are fighting against, those terrible payday lenders. The credit unions are working against that.
Well, I'm going to be sure to thank my credit union. I'm a member of a credit union as well. Rebecca, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
We're going to be
Jim.
pressing on to make this happen.
We sure
will. It's got to happen in January, folks.
Yes.
Thanks again.
Let's make it happen.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Appreciate you.
Scotland would weave their wool, their tartans and whatever they wanted to weave all winter in their dark little houses because they only had a few hours of daylight. And then when summer came, they would take whatever they had woven down to the village. So all the women would come to the village with whatever they had produced over the winter. Now when the wool comes off of the loom, it's too loosely woven to be cut. In order to make it into a garment, it has to be a little bit thicker. This is called felling or felting the wool. You can actually turn the wool into felt if you push it very hard over many hours. The women would come and push the wool, whosever wool it was, put in a loop like that. She would be the caller of the song. She would feel it every once in a while to see, because you want them to go too far into felt. You just wanted it a little bit. The action of dipping the wool into the mordant, or the acid, would make the wool waterproof and color-fast. So you have a color-fast thing you're going to make into a kilt. A good kilt is waterproof. It's a wonderful thing to sleep in, of course, the whole Scottish garment. So after they would do this, what's was called Walking. When they got it to the consistency that she wanted, they would switch to another person's piece of wool, sing another different song. Most of the songs are gossip about what happened over the last time they hadn't seen each other, who they had been dating, who got married. She's in love with, one of the songs is she's in love with a guy with blue eyes. I mean, Agora means blue. And so, oh no, I was kissing Seamus, it wasn't Hormit. They're just silly things. One of the songs is 1,000 Curses on Love, because the woman was fallen in love with a sailor, and guess where he went? He went to America. That's one of our favorite songs. I think that's all I need to tell you about Walking the Wool. It still happens in Nova Scotia because the people immigrated there. The people on the islands got electricity in 1945, so they started putting the wool in a washing machine. It will have the same motion. But the songs have continued, and we have many, many songs of Walking the Wool. Thank you. You're going so fast. God, why are you going so fast?
Watching that Saturday show, and right now we've got with us today an exciting announcement from our own Dar Diaz. Dar, welcome to this side of that Saturday show.
Thank you, Jim. Appreciate it.
And what's the announcement that you're sharing with us today?
Well, we're revitalizing something called Peace Cafe, and it's an effort to create a space within the Peace Center for people to come together, have community, have them collaborate, and just enjoy free hot drink coming out of the cold, have something to eat. And it's also going to provide a kind of gateway to introduce people to the Peace Center, and perhaps give them an opportunity to also volunteer or otherwise spend their time there and help us out, help themselves out with collaborating with each other, and just be a communal space.
Fantastic. So it's going to be a good community conversation space.
Yeah,
where
ongoing.
People
weekly.
can eat and drink and have good conversation as well.
Absolutely.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah.
That's exciting. So what got you all into wanting to do a Peace Cafe? And I say you all because I know you've got collaborators.
Yeah, so my collaborators, my co-conspirators are Josh Orr and Lee Shepard. Josh just recently began getting involved with the Peace Center, and Lee's a longtime volunteer. And Lee had helped out with the Peace Cafe when it was ongoing previously in years past, and we both had been hearing from people about how they missed it, and they wanted to see the Peace Cafe or something like the Peace Cafe come back and have an opportunity and space to be able to create this community.
That's great. That is absolutely wonderful. So Lee is responsible for the guitar interlude in our intro and outro for the show. And so it's good to have Lee on hand to do this.
Yeah.
So today, I'm looking back on something that happened on last Wednesday, in fact, where you all had a test run at the Peace Cafe and cooked up some really good food and fed the staff and the volunteers.
Yeah, we did.
That was really good.
Yeah, glad you enjoyed that.
Yeah.
It was a good opportunity for us as well to feel out the space, to see what we had in terms of resources and cooking implements, and to do some cleaning, some reorganizing, and we created a kind of a wish list. So of the things that, if anybody wants to donate and has these extra things in their house they want to get rid of, we could use a colander, saucepans, saute pans. If you have some extra staples laying around, rice, coffee, beans, potatoes, things like that, we could use. So
there you go, folks. There's some things we can donate to that Saturday show and to Dar, who will probably schlep them from here if you brought them down today. But if you don't bring them down today, you could always bring them over to the Peace Center where we'll need them. I'll get into my kitchen and see what I can come up with as well.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, we're excited about that. Really excited that the Peace Cafe is coming back, and the energy of three magnificent young men taking the lead is really a powerful statement. So, folks, take advantage of that. Anything else you want to add, Dar?
Well, again, the event serves as a kind of gateway, so anybody that wants to help out with this effort, join us in taking this thing to new heights, as it were. Yes. Come on down to the Peace Center and see what it's all about.
And the Peace Cafe is going to happen on Thursdays?
Yes, generally every Thursday from 10 to 2 or 3-ish.
Mm-hmm.
We're still feeling that one out. Except on, we're going to have, instead of that Thursday on December 3rd, we're going to go that Friday since there's something else going on at the Peace Center. So just that Friday, December 3rd, instead of the Thursday.
Gotcha. Peace Cafe at the Albuquerque Center for Peace and Justice. Dar, thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate the time.
All right. Lots of stuff happening just this week alone. And in order to unpack some of that, we had to bring in our capable and able director, Tom Dent. Tom, where are we going from here?
We're going all sorts of places. Hopefully we're going into the future with a lot of optimism and a lot of great things being done for the community. But I don't know. I've got my reservations. I'm very happy to see Dar and Lee and Josh bring back the Peace Cafe. When I was involved with the Peace Center 5 and 6 years ago, it was a big hit. It wasn't just homeless people or people off the street. There were doctors, there were professors from the university, students from UNM. People were playing the piano, they brought guitars. Everybody had a great time playing games and all that stuff. So I'm very, very happy that the Peace Cafe is back at the Peace Center. I'm not really that happy about the results from last Tuesday. I am kind of happy that Mr. Aragon joined the race, maybe stole some votes away from Manny Gonzalez and helped ensure Tim Keller having a second term. What do you think, Jim?
Well, we're glad that Tim got reelected. As I said in my opening, it would be a horrible thing if we ended up with the likes of Manny Gonzalez as mayor. I'd probably have to sell my house and pack up and move out of Albuquerque. I just couldn't stand it. But I'll tell you, the thing that bugs me the most is how we've lost control of our city council.
Yeah. Well, like I said on last week's show, the first Keller administration put forth a lot of good programs, diversity, equity, working with community and stuff like that, and also the public safety department that we're going to talk about a little bit more. But you need a cooperative city council, and the balance is kind of tipped here. It looks like it's a little bit, it's supposed to be nonpartisan, but it looks like it's a little bit more Republican leaning than Democrat right now.
Yeah, I mean, I look at it and coming in is Dan Lewis, an avowed Republican. I call them Confederates because that's what they are. It's the Republican Party's become the Confederate Party. And it's no different here in Albuquerque. But we're looking at Dan Lewis coming in, and we know him to be a Republican, and he's joined by the likes of the wicked and evil Trudy Jones up in Northeast Heights, and you've heard me rail against her on many occasions for her racism. And then we've got, who else? We've got somebody else coming in that's a Republican.
Well, we've got Renee Grout.
Renee Grout
she's replacing Don Harris up in District 9.
Yeah, and she's a Republican as well. So it looks like the balance of power and influence in the in the city council is going to be very challenging this time around, and we just don't need that at a time when everybody around us is out of control. We need progressive, stable, sane leadership, and we might not be getting it out of this city council.
Yeah, and fortunately or unfortunately, Louis Sanchez upset Lon Senna out on the west side.
That was a heartbreak.
Yeah, we loved working with her. We don't know that much about Louis. I believe he's related to the former city council in that district, the late Ken Sanchez. Apparently, he's a former police officer who retired in 2014. Hopefully, he can work on public safety initiatives and convince the police that are there to comply with the consent decree and reform their type of training.
Let's hope. Let's hope he brings that.
And there was a race that was too close to call between Democrat Tammy Feeblecorn and Republican Lori Lee Robertson. So if you do live in the mid-northeast sides, District 7, please get out and work for Tammy, support her in the runoff. Yeah, there can be a big leaning with these Republicans. A lot of them have real estate and investor interest, and they have been known to support gentrification in the future. And that goes hand in hand with the soccer stadium, which was, well, in our opinion, fortunately, it was voted down by the voters by a very significant majority. But there are people that are saying, you know, these investors are going to come back. They're not going to take no for an answer. They're going to find a way to build it where they want to. You have to talk with your city councilors and make sure that wherever, you know, if it is built, you know, to do everything you can to provide good jobs and make the community safer. And the one thing you have to look at that a lot of these people do in the future, we've seen in, you know, with NFL stadiums and stuff like that. Once they do have a place to build, all of a sudden they'll convince city council to have us pay, you know, the property taxes and the future taxes on these type of facilities. And I would say no. You know, if these people want to build it, spend all their money on it. Don't tax us down the road and make the city liable for this. The city, you know, is very close to bankruptcy, and what people don't understand about some of these bond issues, that if Moody's, if the LIBOR banks declare the city bankrupt, we get downgraded, and we don't get approved for millions of dollars in municipal bonds.
And that would be a tragedy here. So we've really got to stay on top of this one, because I've heard that even though the bond on the stadium was defeated, that money now goes to the city council to decide, you know, what they're going to do. Mm-hmm. And the last thing we want them to do is weaponize it and use it against, particularly against struggling communities here in Albuquerque that could use it for so many other things. But I want to say something more about that school board business, because there's a national campaign to take control of public education around the country. And, you know, and it's happening here too. This is why we see all of these right-wing conservatives that ran for, and unfortunately in some instances won, seats on our school board. APS has got enough trouble already with people trying to come in and upend the kind of education that would happen in the school system here. You know, we'll hear them yelling about things like critical race theory and turning their backs on bringing restorative justice and conflict mediation into the schools as vital and essential skills that need to exist there. And they'll just strip things down and make the students' lives and the teachers' lives more miserable than they already are. We don't need that. So, as Tom mentioned, there's this runoff that's happening in District 7 is it District 7, District 5, between...
It's District 7.
District 7, I was right. Between Tammy Feeblecorn and Lori Lee Robertson, and we've got to make certain that that doesn't get flipped over. We want to make certain that Tammy wins that race, and that the influence that we need to have in our city, stays in the sane column.
Well, that's something, like you were saying before, you have to watch out nationwide. The Republicans have been working on this type of strategy for a very long time. A lot of people call it the Albq state-by-state initiative, where they get people all the way from the school boards to city council to state legislatures to get control of their agenda. And let's move on to another thing. We wanted to. My daughter goes to a charter school, and these most of the kids are all masked up, and they're very compliant with this. And but we have seen city council meetings here in Albuquerque that have devolved into absolute chaos about people talking about critical race theory, about masking, not wanting to vaccinate their children and stuff like this. This is a matter of the entire public safety. And for people that don't know it, critical race theory is only taught in high-level college graduate courses in law schools.
That's correct. And so the red herring that the right wing is using is just that. It's a red herring. It's false, and we shouldn't fall for the lies that are accompanying that. We've got about a minute left here, Tom.
I wanted to talk about the public safety bill.
Let's do that.
24,
almost $25 million in public safety.
And they're hinting that it's probably going to be built at the old Parkland Hills Shopping Center at Manal and Catherine. When I was driving my daughter to her school yesterday, I noticed that the current public safety building is the old city jail, or part of the old city jail. We've got to support this. We've got to get all over the councilors and the mayor to do this right, to actually serve the community, and like Barbara was talking about, have an open, direct conversation for the needs of the homeless and the people in impoverished communities that need to be built up and to a large part left alone by the police.
You've been watching That Saturday Show. There's a lot more of it we could unpack based on last Tuesday's election, but we thank you for watching, and we'll look forward to you joining us again next week. Thank you.
Until the next time, it's time to say goodbye. When you out here in the streets, keep it real, 505. We love everybody, we just want to let you know. Thanks for tuning in to That Saturday Show.